Hey guys, the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series was at Indianapolis Motor Speedway this weekend for the Brickyard 400, and Kevin Harvick ends up getting his second Brickyard 400 win, his third win of 2019, and his 48th career win. This was the last race in the regular season for the Cup Series, and boy was it an eventful race. Harvick started on the pole, wins the race, pretty much complete domination, and Jimmie Johnson, for the first time, does not make the postseason, does not make the playoffs. He got in a huge crash that he basically caused by himself, but we'll get to that later. We'll get to who made the playoffs and who didn't. So Newman and Bowyer made the playoffs, and Suarez and Jimmie Johnson did not, which means there was no actual spoiler in there, but there was one close in third place. We'll get to him. Kevin Harvick won the second stage, won the pole, got to kiss the bricks, climbed the fence with his team owner Tony Stewart. Joey Logano won the first stage, started fourth, had a really strong day today, did not win for the captain, unfortunately, though. Bubba Wallace gets third, a podium finish, a top 5 finish, qualified 15th. I mean, he said this was his best car that they've had this year, or ever, really, and that was a huge spoiler. If he won, he would have won himself into the playoffs and bumped Newman out. That would have been a crazy upset, and didn't happen, but still, it's still an upset with Bubba finishing third. I actually met him at Homestead Miami Speedway last year, and that was really cool. And Bubba Wallace gets third. That's huge upset just by itself, and that car is not supposed to do that for sure. That's a 25th place car, and Bubba wheeled it to third place finish, and the crashes helped him too. He stayed pretty clean besides that incident on pit road. William Byron gets fourth. William Byron had a really good day. He didn't win the pole of all the crown jewels now, but he qualified 29th. That's not good, but he finished in the top 5, avoided lots of incidents, and fortunately he got a top 5. Clint Bowyer started 5th, qualified 3rd, or finishes 5th, started 3rd, and this is exactly what he needed to do. He needed to have a really solid day, avoid wrecks, which he really did today, just barely though, well, especially with Bowman, and he gets a top 5 finish. That's really good for Clint Bowyer because he was +8 coming into this race, left with about +12. He makes the playoffs. So that's really, really good for Clint Bowyer. Denny Hamlin gets 6th. Denny Hamlin had to start in the back after a huge crash, fiery crash in practice yesterday, but he makes top 10 finish, and he gets 6th, so really solid. Ryan Blaney gets 7th. Ryan Blaney had a good day. Nothing too spectacular, but one time Harvick started on the inside on a restart with Blaney on the front row. Inside was not what you wanted to do on a restart. Blaney took the lead. Blaney led for a while, but he ultimately finishes kind of mired down in the field, top 10, but 7th place. Ryan Newman gets 8th, makes it into the playoffs, advances. He's 16th in points since this was the regular season finale, and he makes it to the playoffs. And really good for Ryan Newman, super consistent. I mean, he started pretty bad, but he made it, and so that's really good for Ryan Newman. Roush Fenway, coming into this year before Daytona, you would have never thought that a Roush car would make it over a Stewart-Haas car like Suarez or a Hendrick car like Jimmie Johnson, but you just never know what happens, especially with Ryan Newman coming new to that team this year. So he gets 8th and makes it into the playoffs. He was only +4 above Daniel Suarez at the end of this race. He came in below the cut line, -0 on a tie with Suarez. Suarez would have gotten the tiebreaker +0, but now Suarez is out. Chase Elliott gets 9th. The first pit stop was terrible. Everybody was getting into each other. Chase Elliott may have gotten the worst of it, and he battled back up. His team kept fighting, and he gets 9th, a top 10 finish for Chase Elliott. Great job. He really deserves this, and hopefully he can carry some momentum into the playoffs. And they need to do that. Like, if they have problems, they get back up to a top 10. That's really good for him. Paul Menard gets 10th. Obviously doesn't make the playoffs, but lots of people thought he would be the spoiler. Fastest in second practice, qualified second on the front row, but gets 10th, a top 10 finish. I mean, that's good, but he was not the spoiler to win and make it to the playoffs and bump somebody out. But he got a solid top 10 finish in 10th. Daniel Suarez, 11th. It's really not a bad finishing position, but he does not make the playoffs. He was 4 points back, did not make it, -4, -4 against Newman, and Bowyer made it as well. He's Bowyer's teammate, and Suarez is Kevin Harvick's teammate as well. Harvick won the race, and he watched Harvick do the burnouts and climb the fences, wishing Suarez himself could do that, but he does not make the playoffs. Unfortunate for his first year in Stewart-Haas Racing, his third year in Cup, and he never made the playoffs. Austin Dillon, 12th, a kind of quiet day, had an incident on pit road like everyone, but I mean, he gets top 10 or top 15, so that's pretty decent. Same with his brother Ty Dillon, avoided some crashes and gets a top 15 finish. That's really good for that small team Ty Dillon's in. Eric Almirola gets 14th. I mean, it's a solid enough day. He makes the playoffs. He was locked in that last week at Darlington. But, yeah, he had a top 10 car, but, I mean, at least he got a top 15. Chris Buescher, top 15. That's pretty solid. Same with his teammate Ryan Preece there. Good for that rookie. McDowell, 17th, pretty quiet, top 20. Same with DiBenedetto, quiet, top 20. He got up to 11th there for a while, which was pretty good, but 18th, not the worst it could be. Same with Corey LaJoie. That's good for that small team. Go Fast Racing, top 20. David Reagan, another top 20. Alex Bowman got 18th. Alex Bowman spun. Clint Bowyer just barely missed that, and that saved his playoff hopes. But, yeah, Bowman spun and hit the inside wall, so that kind of ruined his day a little bit. He was running pretty decent, and he gets 21st. Ross Chastain gets 22nd. It's pretty good for that team. Reed Sorensen gets 23rd. Ryan Sieg, making his first Cup start of the season, gets 24th, top 25. Chastain's teammate, he's looking to make the playoffs in the Xfinity Series. He probably will. He's pretty safe. BJ McLeod gets 25th. JJ Yeley gets 26th. Martin Truex Jr. gets 27th. He had damage on pit road, and that pretty much just ruined his day completely. Started where he finished 27th. He just had a terrible day. Mess on pit road. Garrett Smithley gets 28th. Josh Bilicki gets 29th. Kurt Busch gets 30th. Kurt Busch, unfortunate for Kurt Busch, he got caught up in the wreck with Jimmie Johnson that cost Johnson out of the playoffs. Johnson hit hard. That hit Kurt Busch. Kurt Busch hit really hard as well, and that ended Kurt Busch's day, but he's locked in the playoffs. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. had problems on pit road. He had tons of damage. That's why he finishes down there in 31st. Matt Tifft had a great day going, like a career day in the Cup Series for that really small Front Row Motorsports team. But unfortunately, Suarez made some contact with him, and that sent Matt Tifft into the wall, and he hit really hard. He was pretty much destroyed. Larson is having a great day. Probably him and his teammate Kurt Busch and at Chip Ganassi had the best cars. But Kyle Larson spun, hit the inside wall, and then the tire just ripped apart the whole car and destroyed it, and he was done, finishes 33rd. Hemrick was having a solid top 15 finish, really good for that rookie. Probably going to get Rookie of the Year, probably. Started 11th, pretty good, but he was an innocent bystander to Jimmie Johnson, Kurt Busch's mess, and Kurt Busch came out, hit Hemrick hit the wall, and Hemrick was pretty much done from there on. There's Jimmie Johnson. Jimmie Johnson kind of got tight under his teammate William Byron, and then Jimmie Johnson just destroyed his playoff hopes after qualifying well in 5th, and he finishes 35th. He thought he was going to make the playoffs. He didn't. He was too aggressive, hit the wall extremely hard. That destroyed Kurt Busch's day, Hemrick's day, Parker Kligerman's day, which you could see finishes here in 36th, and yeah, so really unfortunate. Kyle Busch blew up and then stopped on pit road and kind of limped it back to pit road on the access road, and since he stopped on pit road, they had to cause the caution, which sent the end of stage 2 under caution, and Harvick got that. Brad Keselowski and Eric Jones, they got in a humongous crash. Jones got loose under Keselowski. That pushed them both up into the outside wall. Jones hit the back with the back of his car, lifted him off the ground, completely tore Eric Jones's car apart. Then Brad Keselowski hit the outside wall as well, went down to the inside wall, hit some tire barriers. That lifted the car up. Brad Keselowski's car was completely destroyed, and on its side in the tire barrier, it was completely destroyed. That was pretty terrible for Brad Keselowski and Eric Jones. Obviously, Jones won last week, and Keselowski's safe. They're all safe in the playoffs. And yeah, they're both of their cars were just completely destroyed. Keselowski's like almost upside down on the side. He crawled out. He had to be on like the ground, and Jones was destroyed as well, the whole back of the car off. And Landon Castle down here, 40th last place, he blew a tire, hit the outside wall, and that was a really hard hit, like extremely hard, just completely destroyed Landon Castle's car. And so there was lots of carnage in today's race. Today's race was extremely eventful in all the cautions and crashes that happens. And wow, it was a pretty eventful Indianapolis race with Harvick winning. And yeah, the aero package helped the restarts, and lots of crashes happened to help the restarts. Were pretty eventful. But then when they kept going, it kind of got single filed out. But still, there was lots of crashes, which made it entertaining. And yeah, even though the product of the race itself was kind of lackluster just a little bit, but better than most Indy races for sure. It was a really good race with all the crashes, and the restarts were great as well. So I thought Kyle Busch would sweep the weekend after winning the Xfinity race yesterday at Indy. That didn't happen, but he had some problems. And Harvick wins. The playoff field is set. The 16 playoff drivers are set. Newman, Boyer make it. Suarez, Johnson do not. No real spoiler winning like Matt Benedetto could, but Bubba almost did. He was 2 spots away. Really impressive for Bubba Wallace. The car's not supposed to do that. I'm really proud of him. So thank you so much for watching this video, guys, and I will see you on the next video, of course. Bye.